Hello, and welcome to February's IATEFL live show. My name is Georgia, and I have got with me Anka. Anka, hello.
Hello.
Anka, how have you been? I haven't seen you in a month, so what's new with you and the ELT world?
It's good. English keeps going. We're finally seeing some spring weather where I am, so that's nice.
Brilliant.
And I don't know, English teaching is fun year round, I guess. So there's always enough to do, to read, new books coming out, new magazines, new stuff to keep up with. And of course, the IATEFL previews brochure and IATEFL 303 that came out.
And also, I need to say that you mentioned magazines, and we have got the absolute expert with us today to talk about our IATEFL Voices 303 that has come out, but more of that later. Anka, have you realized that it is 6 weeks before the IATEFL conference in Edinburgh?
I know. I woke up one day and I realized, shit, I need to get started on my talk and I need to read up on Edinburgh and I need to, it's happening.
It's happening. And also I have got my badges here because, in the conference, we always have a badge that shows the location and I always have them on me. So I'm really looking forward to put my Edinburgh badge, I hope, over here as well. And I need to get Teddy ready as well because Teddy is an important member of our show. So yes.
We need to get Teddy some new clothes, Scotland appropriate clothes.
I do need to say that I was talking with IATEFL head office about the different operations of our IATEFL live show in Edinburgh. So this is coming up next as well. You're going to receive a lot of updates about how we're going to run the IATEFL live show at the conference, which is very important because for those of you who cannot travel all the way to Edinburgh, this IATEFL live show will be there to support you by showing you little snips of interviews that we will have got with the speakers, delegates, sponsors as well, exhibitors, anyone who is over there at IATEFL live as well. So, Anka, shall we invite our guest today?
Oh, yes.
Excellent. So let's welcome our guest and, of course, friend here, Derek Phillips. Hello, Derek. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you very much. How are you?
How are you doing?
Yeah, all good. Thank you. Yeah.
Getting ready for the conference?
Yes. I was just hearing you say it's just like 6 weeks away. And I had a similar reaction. It's like, oh, okay. That's not very far. It's come around really quickly. It just feels like it was yesterday that we were in Brighton.
I know, right? It has gone. Time has gone by so fast. It is unbelievable.
Yeah, very much so. But I'm excited to be returning to my home country.
You're Scottish.
I am.
That's true. Yeah.
Oh.
There, you have got some sneak.
Sorry, no. Let's have some input on Scotland.
Okay. But what input would you like? I'm from Aberdeen originally.
Aberdeen. Oh,
yes.
That's even higher up.
Although that is higher up, yes. And one of my sisters used to live in Edinburgh, so I've been there quite a few times. She lives outside Edinburgh now in the Scottish borders. So yeah, Edinburgh is sort of reasonably familiar to me. It's a lovely place.
Tips, because I've been before once, but like you're the expert officially now.
Okay.
Any tips for anyone who's looking to book or to come? What should they know?
Well, I think Edinburgh is quite a lovely city to walk around. So, I mean, it's quite easy to get from Princes Street, which is the main sort of high street in Edinburgh, and it's quite easy to get from there round to the Royal Mile, the older part of the city, and beyond as well. So like a really good, comfortable pair of shoes would be in order as well. Prepare for some, say, hilly parts of the city. It's not exactly flat in places. Obviously, there's a castle on a massive rock. So, you're going to have to do a little bit of walking uphill now and again. Yeah, take lots of pictures as well. It's a beautiful place. There's lots of cafes. There's actually lots of bars as well, if you wish. Lots of great restaurants. So the cuisine is quite varied as well. And just be prepared to explore.
Good tips.
And
And attend the
very-
conference, of course.
And it's very important, I think, that for people like me who have never been to Edinburgh before, I think that is important to know and get to meet people who have been to Edinburgh before so they can guide you, because there's so
Yeah.
many things to see, not only at the conference, but also in the city. So that's
Yeah,
why I think
exactly.
it's important to make friends at the conference.
Yes, yeah. It's a good networking opportunity, really. And I think as well, maybe prepare for all weathers, because you never know.
That's true.
I mean, Scotland's not known for its year-round sunshine, but we do get sunshine. But just in case, come prepared. It might be a little bit chilly at times, especially in the evenings. But just if you're prepared, then I'm sure you will have a great time. There's so much to see and do.
Amazing. Derek, before we move on to voices, we do have an Edinburgh quiz for you.
Oh no.
For those of you watching us from home, you know that we like teasing our guests with little games or quizzes. And last time, Derek, I remember that when you were in the December show, we did the
That's right.
festive quiz.
Yes. Yeah, we did. I did okay with that one.
You did
now
actually,
you've set me
yes.
up you've now set me up as an expert on everything Edinburgh, and it'll probably be horrendous.
Why don't we start with one simple question, and then I promise we'll move on to voices.
Okay.
Excellent. Now, this is one of Nikki's question, because Nikki unfortunately couldn't be with us today, but she did send us some of the questions for the quiz. So, Anka, do you want to read the question?
Where in Edinburgh would you go if you wanted to visit the famous castle that sits atop Castle Rock? Yeah.
Where would you go? Well, you would need to go to the top of the Royal Mile.
Oh yeah, this is the climbing bit that you talked about.
Uphill. Yes. So yeah, if you're at the top of the Royal Mile, then you will sort of get into, it will open up into the castle esplanade, and then the castle being just right in front of you, basically. I think that's is that what the question's asking?
No, I think the famous castle would be the castle.
Edinburgh, the castle.
Edinburgh Castle.
Yes,
Like
Edinburgh
it's
Castle.
like, I think it's the one thing. If you go to Paris, you must have seen the Eiffel Tower. Like every city has one of those things that you have to have done that. And I've always been told that this is it for Edinburgh. Like you have to have seen the castle. Yeah,
well, from most parts of the city centre, you can't miss it. It dominates the skyline. So even if you don't necessarily go into it, you will definitely see it.
Oh yeah. Even if you looked at our favorite magazine coming out earlier this week.
Yes, there was a few clues in there, isn't there? But yeah, you should, if you can, visit the castle. It's a really interesting place to have a look around. It's still, I think there's still an army barracks there. And there's the Scottish Crown Jewels in there as well. And it's a fascinating tour.
I do remember when I went that obviously you have to walk the Royal Mile from the castle to Hollywood Palace. That I love the palace more. Maybe because it's all indoor, a bit warmer, a bit later, fancier. I definitely think the climate helped with me liking the palace more than the castle. But I'd almost say you'd have to do both. Like do the whole Royal Mile, see all the touristy shops and all the stuff that's there.
Yeah,
but definitely
so
do the
there's a
castle.
lot along the Royal Mile that you can see and do. So there's St Giles Cathedral as well, which is about sort of halfway down. And I think you can probably go in there and have a look around as well. It's a beautiful church building. And of course, at the other end, at the bottom end of the Royal Mile, you mentioned the Palace of Holyrood House. Yes, you can go around there in the grounds, and there's Holyrood Abbey. There's the ruins of the old abbey just down there as well. But there's also the Scottish Parliament building, which is just nearby, which is a very modern building, which I think is a kind way of describing it. It's either architecture that you love or you don't. So I think against the sort of the very old buildings that are along the Royal Mile, it does stand out. But it's interesting nonetheless. It has a place. So yeah, there's lots along the Royal Mile.
Is there anything you still want to see in terms of sites, touristy things?
Let me have a think. Well, the National Gallery, which is I think close to Waverley Station, it's lovely. I don't think I've sort of seen all the way around that. It's quite big. And then the National Museum for Scotland as well, similarly.
Of course, yeah.
So I've seen bits and pieces of it, but you can certainly go back and have a different experience of those places again. The botanical gardens, the zoo. I've not been to the zoo in a long time, actually. So that's quite nice and good fun as well.
Sounds like you need at least one day extra, if not two. After the
I mean, you could tag on the weekend and just have a nice little exploration.
I always do. I do feel that like we all attend because obviously we teach English language. We love English language and culture. And I think if you're going somewhere, it's sort of like a moral obligation if you have the luxury to travel and go to add something. And I don't know. In my case, it's the Writers' Museum. That last time I didn't get to visit, but I really look forward to. And I've read about this shop where you can make your own bag with Harris tweed, which obviously now I really want to do. And I don't know, it's just like I said, if you have the luxury to go, I feel like you need to at least add a couple things and turn it into an experience.
Absolutely. Not just a tourist experience, but it's also a learning experience as well. So, because I think for many people, many of our delegates, it may well be the first time that they're coming to Edinburgh. So yeah, I mean they can learn about like Scottish culture and the city itself and its history, because it's got a very long history. That, for example, that rock that the castle sits on top of is an extinct volcano. So, I mean, what a great place for a castle. It sounds like it's like straight out of a Bond movie or something like that. So, but there's like
I do have to warn
much
people,
to
if you're
learn.
expecting to come and see a volcano and you're thinking like volcano and warmth, it's not exactly like that, but
Not
it
quite,
does sound very cool to go to a castle on a volcano and just visit it. Yeah,
definitely.
For that alone, you should go.
Yes, absolutely, and the views from the castle are amazing. So you can see the whole city just spread out in front of you. And you don't actually need to go into the castle to get those views. You can see them from the esplanade. So
in other words, what I'm hearing right now is you're advising us all to wear sensible shoes.
Yeah, Yeah, and it
Absolutely.
would anyway, because you probably do a lot of walking around the conference venue in and of itself, between sessions. But if you're getting out and about, as you should in any of our venues and any of the cities that we visit, then yeah, definitely. So sensible shoes and potentially warm clothes.
A good coat for sure.
A good coat, yes.
Absolutely. So, Derek, you have got some more information about our IATEFL conference coming up in
Yes.
6 weeks. So, for the people who are just joining our lives, hello and welcome. We're 6 weeks before our IATEFL conference in Edinburgh, and we have got Derek here with us, who is going to talk not only about IATEFL voices, but he's going to give us some sneak peek in a way into the conference. Derek, what have you got for us?
So members earlier on this week should have received the latest issue, there it is, of Voices. So it's the March-April issue. It is the pre-conference issue. So this is an important one because it does provide a lot of information about what's happening at the conference. So, for example, we have a sneak peek at IATEFL 2025. There we go. So Metin is on the conference committee. So he and his conference committee colleagues have put together a piece about what to see at the conference, what to expect. There's a bit about the exhibition, which runs in parallel with the conference itself. I noticed mention there of the lip sync battle as well, which I think was quite popular last year.
It was such a blast last year. It was really, really nice.
I'm going to have to check it out, but I'm not performing. So yeah, it also his piece also mentions the plenary speakers as well. So it introduces the plenary speakers for you, and I believe in our next live stream you're going to be talking to them, which is exciting.
Absolutely. So
and then
to let everybody know, we're going to have IATEFL live shows dedicated to the IATEFL conference, and we're going to talk to the plenary speakers. We will be talking to people helping out with the conference, so you shouldn't miss those shows.
Absolutely. And the pages that you were just cycling through just now, so they are a piece called IATEFL Member Voices. And I asked a few members, Anka included, if they could provide their sort of helpful hints and tips and advice and suggestions on what to do at the conference. So, for example, well, there's the first question you can see on the screen. What would a typical day look like for you? What would you try and do? But equally, if you are new to the conference, like how would you plan it out? Because we have so many sessions. What would you actually? How would you actually go about planning it? So preparation came out, and a number of the responses there. Maybe also having a bit of a backup plan as well, because sometimes sessions fill up, and you might not be able to get to one, or maybe there's a cancellation. So have a backup plan as well. Also, if you're a first-time speaker, there's some advice in this particular article as well. Like, if you're a first-time speaker, what do you do? Mainly, don't panic. Also, preparation comes into there. Anka mentioned, channel your rock star vibes, which I really like. Which is great. It's like confidence building as well. Like everybody's been there at some point, being a first-time presenter. So it's like, don't worry, it will be fine. Everybody is there to support you. There's also parts about networking as well. So if you're not a natural networker, how do you do it? Be bold. Speak to the people next to you, and introduce yourself. And then that's usually enough to break the ice, and then get everybody chatting. You'll notice a few pictures as well that I've put in there of Edinburgh, just to provide some inspiration as well, if delegates want to get out and about. Not necessarily if they want to get, when they want to get out and about. So, because you don't want to get sort of conference burnout. You want to enjoy the city of Edinburgh as much as the conference as well. So there's quite a lot of advice in that particular section there. And then next, there's a little bit about the exhibition as well, the IATEFL exhibition, which runs in parallel with the conference itself. It's a great place for networking. You can meet publishers and other sort of companies and people involved in ELT, and just sort of generally a good way of finding out about what they do, and then they can find out about you. Very good networking possibilities there. And I think there's often pop-up presentations at the exhibition, and then career development and that sort of thing as well. So there's lots. Yeah.
And also this is probably where we are going to be placed, our studio is going to be placed again this year, because we prefer to place our studio close to the exhibition so that we can speak to delegates. And Anka and Nikki and I were really running around the exhibition. It was really like our second home during the conference.
I bet a good one. It's like one of those marketplaces where you get a ton of tiny shops, and like you said, most exhibitioners do organize stuff. They have raffles, they have pop-up speakers, they have moments, and I think it's one of those understated things. We all focus on the program and the speakers, and we sometimes forget that this is also really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a wealth of information, in there. During a coffee break, for example, you can sort of pop through to the exhibition and have a little bit of a wander around, meet people, and I think it's important to consider the exhibition as well and check it out. And you can do it in little bits during the day as well. You don't have to do it like all at once, but split it up. So yeah, very worthwhile going there too.
Lovely. Derek, apart from the conference, what is in this IATEFL Voices that you, while flipping through the pages, for example, you would suggest read?
Well, I would suggest reading all of it, really. Of course. Well, we do have our usual sections. So first of all, there's the Green IATEFL segment, which Christopher Graham has provided this time, and it's an interesting question that's posed at the very start there. Should we be angry about not being angry about climate change and the climate crisis? And it's looking at, he's been looking at research that's being conducted on why people get angry as well, and it's often the lack of action for a start, or maybe nonchalance about it as well, and there's not enough being done, and also climate deniers as well. That's also another source of eco anger, is the terminology that's used there. But also how this can sort of filter through into our area, our ELT area as well. So there's a number of points made in there. So, for example, you can see that like the power of imagery in there around sort of climate change education and so forth. So I think it's again sort of part of a series that's and a regular column that we've been sort of promoting as well, because like sustainability and climate change, it impacts everybody, and we do need to be doing something more, much more than what's happening. Yeah.
And there's
So
many
that's
things we can do in class and out of class as well. And
yeah,
I think that
absolutely.
exactly, and these resources are very important for us to be inspired as well. And with our work with Green IATEFL as well, we're here to give advice and to talk to people. So just feel free to reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because more and more contributors to Voices are focusing on the likes of sustainability and like how it's impacting or what they're doing in their particular classrooms, and how it's impacting them and their students. So that's definitely a big part of this, the contributions that are coming through for Voices lately, which is great. And indeed, maybe later on in the year, we'll be doing more about sustainability in Voices as well. So yeah, watch
Looking
this
forward
space.
to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have another regular column as well, which is the British Council, which just follows the Green IATEFL, and they're talking about their new framework, which is all about what makes a good teacher as well. So they introduced their updated framework for like professional development and such like for teachers as well. So that's well worth a read as well. And I think it actually relates to a publication that they've produced, which is out in April as well, which is mentioned in their article too.
Amazing. Lovely. Derek, thank you so very much for joining us today. Now, shall we do one last question from our Edinburgh quiz?
Okay.
Excellent.
As long as it's an easy one.
I cannot promise this.
Oh, you're the expert. They're all easy, aren't they?
So I do need to give a heads up to our next guest, who is Sarah Mercer. And I do need to give you, Sarah, a bit of a heads up because we have got an interactive quiz for our guest, and that's on Edinburgh. So, Derek, I'm going to give you a question that's all about history.
Oh, good.
All right, you can guess.
Oh, no.
It's a multiple choice. Anka,
dear.
since this was your question, do you want to read it out?
Well, the famous Encyclopedia Britannica was actually first published in Edinburgh. When?
When? Well, let me see. Well, I'm thinking it's either 1687 or 1768. I'm going to go for, this might be horribly wrong, but I'm going to go for 1768.
Okay. And the correct answer is
1768.
1768. There you go.
Yes.
I just think that you're too modest every time you do our quizzes.
I think it's also the competitiveness in me as well.
Derek, thank you so much for coming here to show us IATEFL Voices 303, and of course to give us a sneak peek of the conference. Exactly.
Yes, you're very welcome.
We are looking forward to seeing you in one of our live shows in March.
Yes.
Excellent. And then we will talk about all things conference again in the month. Derek, thank you
Mm.
so very much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
And welcome back. And I'm here with Sarah Mercer. Before I get to ask you everything about my latest favorite book to read, for the people who do not know you, could you introduce yourself?
Oh, crumbs. Yeah. My name is Sarah Mercer. I'm a professor of language teaching, English language teaching, specifically here in Graz in Austria, where I'm in charge of the teacher training program. So I help to develop pre-service teachers before they go off and teach in schools in Austria.
That sounds like a fun job.
It's very fun.
And then, as I said, there's a new favorite book on my pile of books next to my bed. And it's about a topic that's hopefully not too foreign to us teachers, compassion.
Yes. What a timely arrival of that book. And I have to say, it had a very long gestation. It was an idea that was sort of brewing for me around 2019. And then I don't need to tell you what happened in 2020, 2021 that kind of put everything a little bit on hold, but probably also really made me convinced that that was the thing I wanted to develop. And so it came from there. And yeah, it took a little bit longer than maybe it should have done. But life has that habit of getting in the way, and we all end up taking longer than we think. But I'm not sure that it's anything dazzlingly new. It's maybe just putting into words something that matters to me, and I hope maybe matters to other people as well, and giving us a lens and a framework to look at our teaching through the lens of compassion.
Why compassion?
Blimey. So for me, that's like been a long journey. I think my interest in I started as a language teacher, my interest in my learners, and then interest in teachers. I've always been interested in the psychology of people and what happens between people and those relationships in the classroom, the rapport, the group dynamics, that sense of psychological safety. So it was natural that I became interested in how that relationship is fostered in the classroom, how we develop the sense of trust, how we how we work well with each other in the classroom. And I think a key ingredient for me for that relationship is compassion. So compassion doesn't mean anything goes. It doesn't mean as a teacher, I'm just going to let you get away with everything. Compassion can be fierce and it can be tough and it can be very effortful. But it's sort of a fundamental act of caring and empathy associated with a sense of agency in the classroom. Alongside that, I have a strong interest in other aspects of how we can develop skills in our learners alongside language skills that can orientate them towards being compassionate citizens of their local community and the global community. So compassion for the planet, compassion for other people that they maybe know or they don't know. And so I wanted to use the lens in two ways. Compassion in how we teach, so in the classroom, and then compassion in also what we teach, so that we never, ever just teach learners language. We're always teaching them something else, whether we do that consciously and explicitly, or whether we're doing that implicitly in the kind of values that we share with our learners, whether we intend to or not. And so I wanted to deliberately make compassion one of those values that we share through our teaching in what we teach as well as how we teach.
What would you say is one of the most important tips that you'd also teach your teachers about compassion? So the book has this really clear distinction: teaching with compassion and teaching for compassion. Yeah. Talking about teaching with compassion, what are must-dos for all of us teachers?
So this relates to other work that I've done and that I feel very strongly is compassion has to start with self-compassion. Teachers are so focused on being other-oriented. And if you want to build relationships with your learners and you want to look after your learners and care for them and care for their learning, you have to start by understanding yourself, your own needs, and care for yourself. And that requires some self-compassion, being kind to yourself, looking after yourself, being forgiving to yourself, understanding your needs, understanding your environment that you're working in, and so on. So I think self-compassion would be a good starting point. I'm sure that many people are familiar with the notions of things like compassion fatigue, this notion of burnout that comes from caring too much about our learners and what we do. And there's a very fine line to be drawn there. And I think a key place is to start with understanding and recognizing yourself and knowing where those boundaries are that you need to protect yourself so that you can then nurture those relationships with your learners.
Love that. So best tip for teachers is basically love yourself. Look after yourself, and only that way you can be the best teacher possible.
Yeah, and also not feeling guilty about saying that. Particularly if anyone's going to pick up a book on compassion, I'm guessing that notion resonates with them. And so the concern is that they are very other-oriented and that they may neglect themselves and their needs. And so we have to understand that looking after yourself isn't a luxury. It's not an extra. It's like the foundation of it all. And then you're in the best place to look after others.
It's one of those things that they say in airplanes, for example, right? You put on your own oxygen mask first, then you look at your neighbors. And it somehow seems very clear when it's about an oxygen mask, but when it's about day-to-day stuff,
that's right.
Yeah.
It's harder, and it's hard because we're also not socialized into that discourse. So we're very much socialized into being other-oriented and looking at what we can do for others. And particularly in the teaching profession, it's all about learners and what we can do for them. And that's okay. There's a justification for that. But I still think that it's a mistake not to start by understanding what teachers need and what kind of support they need in order to do their job to the best of their ability.
And what's the best thing I can do to look after myself next week?
So also setting boundaries and knowing what you can control and what you can't control, and where you can say, okay, that's not my responsibility. I don't have to be responsible for everything. But also setting kind of temporal boundaries where you say, okay, after this time, I'm not working anymore, or on this day, I'm not working. This is my time. So setting boundaries, so mental boundaries, physical boundaries, and also these kind of temporal time boundaries, learning where you need to say, that's not me, that's private space, that's private time, and protecting that a little bit.
That's a really good tip. And actually, I think it works. I tried it this year for the first time. I started to tell my students, like, hey, I have working days and I have non-working days, and I'm actually trying this thing called sanity and not answering emails on my non-working days.
Good for you.
And everybody was like giving me compliments and very understanding, and makes me wonder why I did it all that time.
Yeah, and it's easier said than, because I think we're in the idea that we have to do this and we've got to keep up and we've got to be busy and we've got to be available. And actually, when you really step back and you say, I need a little bit of time for me to do my things that's not related to work, when you come back, you will be more energized and more efficient. It's just we don't believe it. We believe we have to just keep going on this crazy treadmill. But actually, as you have shown, when you do take that time and that step back a little bit, you actually are able to come back and be a little bit more as you would maybe like to be.
Yeah, I do. And then when I am how I like to be, I'd also like to teach for compassion and not just with compassion,
Right.
which is the second half of the book, which is why I love it so much, because the first half is all about, being compassionate, and then it's about teaching compassion. And especially, obviously, the last chapter about sustainability, compassion for the planet. Why do you feel we need to teach compassion in our classes also?
Well, I only have to look at the planet and the news and what's going on at the moment to feel that it is more urgent than it has ever been before. And I think that being a teacher is an enormous privilege, but a huge responsibility as well. And we can make a difference. And rather than feeling helpless and powerless at looking at the mess of things that are around us, I actually feel quite hopeful and think, well, you know what? Compassion does give us a lens and does give us a value that it's something that we can foster and we can develop. We know that people can develop it. We know it takes time. We know that it's effortful. But I'm hoping that the people that we work with, whether it's adults or younger children or teenagers, that we can share that ability to care and think critically. So I think a key part, so that people don't misunderstand, a key part of the book is this 3C model that informs everything, which is you everything for me is driven by compassion, but it needs to be accompanied by criticality and courage. And that's where we don't just assume it's about being kind and being friendly and being everything's okay. And it's not a Pollyanna view of the world. It's not rose-colored spectacles. It's about caring, but taking action. And sometimes that action needs to be more assertive, but it's feeling that you care enough to want to do something about others or about the planet, and also feeling empowered to do that, knowing that you've got strategies and ways that you can take action, that you can make a difference.
By being compassionate, critical, and courageous, which is a good addition, because otherwise it would sound a bit flower power, let's all be nice. And it's very much more about how we can affect others around us and how we can change the world around us.
Yeah, I think it is optimistic. I think there's no doubt about it. And I think it might be in some people's eyes idealistic, but you know what? If they're going to criticize me for that, I can live with that. I think those are values I hope that I maintain right until my dying breath. So it's okay for me to have that problem in the background, but I'm very much hoping that compassion with this level of criticality, that it doesn't mean that everything is easy or that everything is flower power and happy and great and whatever. It's about saying, I care, it matters to me, and I also feel empowered and agentic to do something about it. And it's that combination that we hope that we can teach in our learners. One, that we get them to care about the planet, about the environment, about others, about people that maybe they don't know, about people who maybe are different to them, that they care, but that they also feel an ability to take action in a positive way to make a difference. And that we do that through language at the same time.
So I'm going to start name dropping the book for those of you thinking this is what I should read. Compassion-Based Language Education. That's the next bestseller that should be on everybody's nightstand. Why did you decide to add a chapter on compassion for the planet?
Oh, that's huge. That was probably the easiest one for me, because that was there from the beginning. So that was for me very clear that needed to be there. Maybe also because so in Austria, we have got quite a well-developed awareness of environmental issues. We've got quite good policies in place for that. But some of the teachers in school report that the kids are becoming apathetic, that they've actually got eco-fatigue. So that they are saying, yeah, we know recycle. Yeah, we know recycle. Yeah, don't use a plant. Yeah, don't use a car. Yeah, go by public transport. But they're very kind of like, they're not invested in it. And so I wanted to take a step back and say that we have to care and understand our interconnectedness. That has to come first. And then we need to know what we can do to take action. So we don't, because eco-anxiety is a genuine problem. I think there are learners who feel helpless and anxious about the state of the planet. But then there are some other learners, such as some of the teachers in Austria are experiencing, who've been taught about environmental issues from primary school. But by the time they're reaching middle school, they've developed a kind of fatigue about it. And I want to kind of re-energize that by saying, okay, I want them to care. I want them to care about the planet, about animals, about the environment, about where we live, the planet that we share. And then I want them to feel that there is something they can do, that they're not helpless in the face of this. And that's again where, this is definitely driven by hope and optimism. But I would much rather live my life that way than any other way, I'm afraid.
Oh, I agree. And for anyone who's read The Voices 303, Chris's piece on why we need anger when we talk about climate, I think this makes a nice balance for that. We definitely could use anger, but we also definitely need compassion. So compassion-based language education. Any last words, Sarah, about why people should buy this? Why, if you haven't convinced them yet, why should they?
No, I don't want to make anybody buy the book. I feel I wouldn't encourage, if they want to, that's lovely. But why I would like them to get interested in the notion of compassion is because I think we are at a point in history where the value of compassion is more important than it's ever been before, in the face of some of the politics and environmental issues and global issues, but also in the face of developing technologies, AI, and so on. What the teacher can bring to the classroom, their social, emotional, and moral intelligence, is unique. And that can't be replaced by technology. The specialness and the humanity of what it means to be a language educator, that cannot be replaced so easily. And that position of being a language educator comes with this social, moral, emotional responsibility to connect on a very human level. And I think that's where compassion might have a particular role to play and could be very supportive as a lens for how we approach what we do in our jobs.
Perfect answer about why we need compassion. Let me then add to everybody, you also need the book. Yeah, if she's not going to, I'm not sure which direction I should point, but if she's not going to sell it, I will do it. You need this book in your life. Georgia, help me out here.
Sarah, in my cupboard, I have got your books. Not only book, but your books.
I'm so sorry.
This is my guideline. So thank you so much, Sarah. It's a pleasure always talking to you. And
for asking me to come and talk about this. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. Thank you for asking me to come along.
And honestly, thank you very much, because you have brought a lot of hope and optimism as well, because hearing you now in this interview and talking about students and how pathetic they might be, and AI and all of the issues that we all constantly think about, you've brought in so much optimism. Where does that come from?
Austria, apparently.
Yeah, I guess it's just that for me, what are the options? I would much rather approach this with hope and optimism and say, you know what, we can make a difference. I was in another interview the other day, and it was really funny. The guy asked me a really interesting question. He said, what period of history would you want to live in? And I was like, whoa. And I actually said, you know what, right now, because I understand now, and two, this is the chance to make a difference. And I think all of us as teachers can make a difference. And even if we, through our compassion, make a difference to just one person, you know what, that you have made the planet a better place because you've affected one person. It doesn't have to be that you go and change the world for the whole planet, or but what you do daily in the classroom through your compassion makes the world a better place. And that's why I think teachers are in this huge responsibility, but this huge privilege that we have a chance. And that gives me hope and optimism, because we are in that position to make a difference. And yeah, you're not going to reach every single kid. That's life. That's normal. But you will reach some. And that's got to give us a feeling of empowerment, and so that we're not feeling helpless, but we do feel like, yeah, you know what? I can make a difference in the world around me, person by person.
Absolutely. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. Shall we do one Edinburgh question with you?
One what question?
So we have got our Edinburgh quiz.
Oh, crumbs. Right. Okay. Yeah, go on then. I'm going to show my complete ignorance now. Go on. Let's have a look.
Okay. So this is a cultural one.
Oh.
Yes. And let's go for it. So Anka, do you want to read it aloud?
Where in Edinburgh would you go if you wanted to experience the annual art festival that takes place every August?
Well, that's in the streets. That's the street festival, the comedy shows, and they're all over the place, aren't they? They're everywhere in the streets.
Yes, and the name is?
I think it's a hairstyle too, isn't it? Hey?
Huh?
It's a hairstyle too. I think if you have like a certain haircut, we also tend to call it, or if it's on your clothes, we tend to call that a fringe.
The fringe.
Yes,
the fringe. Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, that would have had me up at like 3 a.m. with a sudden, it's the fringe. Oh, a brilliant festival.
Amazing.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I think
Sarah,
they have a really good book festival too.
Yeah, I know it for the comedy and the drama and the singing and those things, but a wonderful festival.
Yes.
Almost as much fun as IATEFL will be.
But
exactly.
IATEFL will be much more fun.
That's what I was going to ask you. Are we going to see you at the conference?
Yes, definitely. I'm going to be there. I'm also with a colleague bringing 25 students from Graz. So Graz will be well represented this year. You won't miss us.
Brilliant. So we do hope to see you at the studio.
Yes, I will happily come along. I look forward to it.
Do.
And thanks for everything. It's been great to catch up with you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you so much for your time. We will see you definitely at the conference.
Brilliant.
So we're going to say goodbye for now. All right, Anka. So we have got some fantastic shows coming up in March.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want you to take a piece of paper and a pen. And that's not only you, but also everyone watching from home. I want you to take your notebooks, your phones to write down the dates. So 13th of March, all of these are Thursdays. So you have got no excuses. So Thursday, 13th of March, Thursday, 20th of March, and Thursday, 27th of March, we will be having our IATEFL live shows here, and we will be talking about the conference. We will be bringing you some sneak peeks. We will be talking to the plenary speakers, some people who will be speaking at the conference as well. So do not miss this experience. So thank you very much all for joining us. Anka, thank you very, very much. So I will see you in March then.
Yes, wouldn't miss it. Same place, same time, different date.
Amazing. Yes. Thank you all, everybody. And we will see you on the 13th of March. Bye.
Until then.